Hello and welcome to Perspectives, where we take a deep dive into the issues of the day and where we take a look at people's opinion on such issues. I am Ruth Osime. Welcome back to Perspective, your Honorized News. The recent matter involving Idris Okuneye, a.k.a. Bobrisky's private conversation, shared by Martins Vincent Ose, a.k.a. VDM, brings to light critical issues within the Nigerian correctional system and the EFCC. Today, we are shedding light on an angle that often goes unnoticed, but directly impacts equality and human dignity: the state of Nigerian prisons. Nigerian prisons have long been a subject of controversy, with overcrowding, poor conditions, and inadequate healthcare regularly making headlines. But beyond these challenges lies an even more disturbing issue. Apparently, while other prisoners endure these harsh conditions, there's been allegations of a corrupt prison system where the privileged and well-connected individuals serve their sentences in private quarters instead of prison, or in some cases, even avoid prison altogether, which raises significant concerns about justice, fairness, and the rule of law. We will speak with those who have worked in the Nigerian correctional system and also hear from those who've been directly involved in investigating the truth behind these allegations. Stay tuned as we take a hard look at the realities faced by ordinary Nigerians behind bars. We're heading for a short break, but stay with us. Perspectives will return in just a moment. Welcome back to Perspectives here on Arise News. At this point, we have the pleasure of welcoming our special guests, starting with Francis Inibehe Osagiede, retired Controller of Corrections and an alumnus of National Institute. Osagiede is also former spokesperson of the Nigerian Correctional Service. Then we have Inibehe Effiong as our second guest. He is a Nigerian human rights lawyer and activist. On July 27, 2022, Akwa Ibom State Chief Judge Ekaite Obot ordered Effiong's imprisonment for contempt of court. While incarcerated, Effiong alleged he was tortured by prison officials, a claim denied by the Nigerian Correctional Service. Effiong's imprisonment sparked national controversy, drawing attention from human rights organizations, including Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project and Amnesty International. The Nigerian Labour Congress, along with 26 civil society organizations, submitted a petition to the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights in Geneva demanding his release. These two gentlemen will be joined by Fisayo Soyombo, an undercover investigative journalist who has investigated abandoned soldiers, corruption in mortuaries, theft in government agencies, and ethnic violence. He has also gone undercover as a patient, baby buyer, and smuggler, and even got himself trafficked to Burkina Faso. He also spent time in police cells and prison to expose corruption in Nigeria's criminal justice system. He has received multiple awards and is the founder of Foundation for Investigative Journalism. Gentlemen, very, very impressive profile that we see there, and very appropriate for the topic that we're discussing today. So welcome to Perspectives. I hope we have a very lively conversation this morning. Francis, also welcome. I welcome you to Perspectives. So let me start with you, Francis. There have been allegations that wealthy or influential prisoners receive preferential treatment in Nigerian prisons. Have any reforms or actions been implemented to address and eliminate this inequality? Did you hear me, Francis?
Yeah, thank you very much. Yes, thank you very much for having me. Once again, I want to also thank fellow discussants. There's no doubt that this is an important issue that you have brought up. The intention, I want to believe, is to develop systems that can build a better Nigeria looking at the angle of managing those that have been kept behind bars for infractions. Now, to answer your question directly, the Nigeria Correctional Service has never come on air to say that the system is run by angels, that there are no incidents of people acting out of character. But what we have always said and continue to say and do is having the capacity to address infractions in whatever quarter. Apart from Mr. Soyombo that did investigative finding to bring to the fore some of these allegations, we on our own have internal mechanisms for monitoring officers in the field, and anyone found to have acted out of character is usually disciplined. On several occasions, officers have been dismissed. Some have been reduced in rank for various forms of infractions.
Okay.
Let me talk about the Soyombo's investigation. And I beg to say that some of these allegations, they are not adequately proven to enable the authority take decisive actions. For instance, Mr. Soyombo, I followed that case when I was in service. Part of the allegations was that inmates in Ikoyi Custodial Center told him that it was possible for you to pay and your name will be expunged from the register of prisoners. I would have expected, as an investigative journalist, for him to follow through, pay the money to the inmate who claimed that there are some personnel that they can transfer the money to and will effect the change. You should have paid the money. Thereafter, when you leave the custodial facility, also go back to find out if your name is still there or not. The inmates that just promised to do that, they were out to scam him. He should have followed through to know that it is way nigh impossible for you to erase your name from the register of prisoners. Most of these allegations, I beg to say, they are mere speculations. You cannot take action against an officer that has been alleged to have committed an offense without carrying out detailed investigation. And when this barrage of allegations were coming on, I remember those days we have, and I think it's still operational, we had the complete response desk number, email addresses, and everything pasted on the walls of all our custodial facilities. The essence was to encourage Nigerians to utilize that window to report any untoward behavior.
Okay.
In fairness to some, we got calls and immediately they were addressed.
Okay, Mr.
So I think we need to tread softly when we are talking about allegations.
Okay, let me go back to Soyombo, because you made some allegations against him and he has to defend himself. So Soyombo, let's get back to you. First and foremost, before you respond to what he has said, I also want you to tell us about your experience about the living conditions inside the prison, the healthcare, sanitation, and food. Then you can also use that opportunity to answer Mr. Francis's questions.
Yeah. First thing I'll say is, for every investigation I've done, it's because ordinary people went through those systems and encountered problems, and they thought it had to be escalated. So I didn't just, someone went to prison and came out and said, oh, wow, that's a cesspool of corruption. You need to find a way to get in. The person went to prison in 2017. It took me 2 years to plan, and in 2019, I went in. Now, I spent 5 nights in the police cell. All they wanted to do was collect bribes to free me. Because I didn't pay bribes.
This is from your own personal experience?
From my personal, we got someone to arrange that. I bought a car, a vehicle. I paid, out of 2.8, I paid 500, and I didn't want to pay the rest.
Okay, that's the
claim that was taken to the police,
Okay.
and then they picked me up. and changed the charge to stealing and hijacking of SUV. Person said, I didn't complete payment and I didn't want to. So each day they were asking, oh, you don't have someone to come and settle your bill. They just wanted bribes. But I wanted to go to prison because police was not the target. And so at the end, after Monday to Friday, they had to arraign me in court. First thing to note is that once the magistrate said remanded in prison custody, and the court closed, and they took me down to the holding cell, the first thing the prison warder did, there was a lady who was, working as my sister. They told me to go into their office in court, and they told her to peep into the holding cell. I had peeped myself, I saw, and they told her, is that the kind of place you want your brother to stay? Give us money, and your brother will stay in our office. Because we needed to be there until evening when the prison boss would go around all the courts to convey inmates to prison. The prison warders approached me, I didn't approach them. And then, there was a negotiation, and then she settled for 5,000 naira.
5,000 naira?
Oh, yes. It's on tape. I want him to produce the videos the prison service seized from me in 2019. Because when you say some allegations are unsubstantiated, the ones that are substantiated, that were taped, that the prison service seized from me, produce them.
Wow.
Oh, yes. Not only that, then they came and then they said, oh, in prison, if you have money, you will never suffer. You serve the prison either with your body or with your money. I can tell you Bobrisky did not spend time in prison. Spent 3 weeks and they moved him out. There's no single Nigerian who has money and does not want to complete their time in prison that will do it. It's only if they want to. From there, they told me I could get a decent place to stay in prison for 50,000, for 100,000, for 150. Even said 1 million. This was in 2019.
1 million. So how much are they supposed to be charging you per day for this supposed?
Different special rooms, depending on how much money you have. When the guy said 1 million, I said 1 million. He said yes. When Fisayo was in Ikoyi prison, do you think he stayed in the general cell?
Wow.
That's the answer they gave me. These things are on tape. I'm not making allegations. These were things that happened to me that I filmed with the secret service. Tell the Nigerian prison service to produce it. Everything is on tape. The warders then told me that the warders in the prison had told the ones in court not to be striking deals with inmates, to wait for the inmates to get to prison so that the ones in prison would strike the deals by themselves.
Oh, because we were changing the warders.
Yes,
by striking
the
deal
warders in
before they
court. Yes, even in court, somebody approached me. The warders, called, say, who is working on your bill? They called someone. The person, the lawyer, came and said, I work with the magistrate. If you pay 200,000 naira, you will sleep in your house tonight, even though the magistrate had pronounced remanded in prison.
Wow.
Yes, the only reason it didn't work out is I wanted to go to prison, not to get out.
So even when you were in prison, what was the condition like?
You get to prison,
health-wise,
before you talk about sanitation, corruption it's an impossibly corrupt system. You get documented as a new inmate. They take your details and you submit any cash on you. The idea is that inmates should not be in possession of cash. You give your cash to the records office. Then you go back to the records office to say, oh, I want to make a call. I want to buy coke. I want to buy food. They release to you in bits so that you can't commit any crime. You can't do it. They then have, the warders then have convicts. Remember, they're awaiting trial inmates, they're convicted inmates. The convicted inmates know that they have nowhere to go. Someone who has a 7-year jail sentence, a 10-year jail sentence is loyal to the prison warders. Because that's your home for the next 7, 10, regardless of your sentence. Those ones then come to you, being documented, say, out of your money, you will remove 1,000 naira to the woman at the records office, doing the documentation. And we're many. When they allocate, so after they take your pictures online, then in print, they do double documentation online and in print, and then they allocate you to a cell. The prison warder in charge of the cell, you have to pay that. As of then, 29, it was 1,000 naira.
Per what? Per
just for being in the cell, for nothing.
How many of you are usually in the cell?
So many. It depends on how many inmates they bring in. I spent 8 days in Ikoyi prison. The lowest number of awaiting trial inmates brought in was 16. Sometimes 40-something, sometimes,
40-something in that one cell?
No. Just, there's so... On the first night, you sleep in a place called welcome cell. You don't sleep like this. You don't sleep like this. You sleep like this. If
What,
you're like crayfish,
on your
when you
sides?
open sardine, have you ever opened sardine? The way they pack, I'm not exaggerating, it's exactly. You know, if Bobby spent one night in welcome, you think he will come out and speak to anybody? You won't come out. That first night, you keep asking yourself, who sent me?
Wow.
Because if I sleep and my head is facing the direction this way, the next person to me, the head then is in this direction.
So
you cannot turn.
Is at the back of your
yes,
head.
you cannot turn. You
Because
sleep like
no
this all
space to
night.
turn.
If there's no how you cannot turn. That's how you sleep. You know, its punishment is, and the thing is that once you have money, you bypass all these things. So
really,
the prison authorities have to decide what they want to do. Is the prison supposed to be a punitive, or as I've never referred to them as Nigerian correctionals? What are they correcting? Many of these prison warders should actually be behind bars themselves. Inmates have phones. How do they have phones? The warders sell phones to inmates. This is not an allegation. Some of the tweets you see, inmates tweeting on Facebook. Now, if you want inmates to have access to phones, yes, whatever. I'm not saying inmates should go there and want to commit suicide because they're in prison. It has to be a level playing ground. You don't bring people in for corruption and then you sell. So I want a phone in prison. A warder then comes and says it's 250,000. The phone is 150,000 in the market. The warder sells it for 250,000, and then that's it.
And where do you get it? Supposed 250,000 to pay for it?
It's your choice. If you want the phone, are you not the one who wants to? You are in prison. You are in prison. You don't have a choice. By the way, a prisoner, and even if it's awaiting trial, you can't talk to a warder unless you squat. You can't stand in front.
As in literally squats?
Yes. You cannot squat. You can't, if a warder is seated and you want to talk to that warder, you can't stand and talk. You squat. Awaiting trial, you've not been pronounced guilty. So it is that bad. Now, when the system refuses to acknowledge its failings, then there won't be progress. So if it comes on national TV to then come and say there are allegations, that's not progress. They seized my device. So ask them, produce that device. Let us watch the videos. Soyombo is lying. Let's play the videos we seized from him to prove that he's a liar.
Okay, let me get to Inibehe. This is just very amazing. So Inibehe, no, I want to ask Inibehe a question before I get to Mr. Francis. So Inibehe, let me ask you. You have been in prison before. So first and foremost, I would like for you to share your own personal experience as well. But aside that, what are the legal repercussions for prisoners who have arranged preferential treatment for their sentences? Can they be reincarcerated?
On the 27th of July, 2022, I appeared before the learned Chief Judge of Akwa Ibom State, the Honorable Justice Ekaite Fabian Obut, in a libel suit filed by the immediate past governor of Akwa Ibom State, Mr. Udom Gabriel Emmanuel, against my client, Mr. Liu Ekpenyo. When the Chief Judge came in that day, in summary, armed policemen with AK-47 were brought inside the courtroom and they sat directly behind me. And that was the first thing that happened immediately the Chief Judge came in. And so the proceedings started. Before then, of course, I had already filed application praying the Honorable Chief Judge to recuse herself from further presiding over the matter. The application was never taken, it was ignored. So when the proceedings started, of course, I tried to make the Chief Judge to hear that application. Again, it was ignored. In the course of the proceedings, a journalist with Premium Times, Mr. Xavier Imogdo, this Chief Judge ordered him to stand up. Of course, he has been covering the court and making reports about the proceedings in the matter. So the Chief Judge, in summary, ordered him to leave the court, and then he was arrested and taken out of the court. As a lawyer, I just stood up and said, my Lord, we had thought that the Constitution allows for publicity of trial and that the court should be accessible to all persons, including the media. Of course, the Chief Judge berated me and then stated that except I was the one who brought in the journalists to disparage her. So I left the issue. I now went to the issue of the armed men who were behind me. I said, my Lord, I have also observed the presence of armed men in court, that this is not the tradition of our profession. Even though I'm not afraid of them, however, it has created hostility and trial cannot continue under this atmosphere. My Lord, may they be ordered to leave the court. The Chief Judge was very inflamed, very infuriated by that observation, and then rejected it. So I then said, my Lord, I'm now making it as a formal application. Because as a lawyer, if you make an appeal to a judge, the judge can say no, but the law allows you to make it formally in which case the judge is required to make a ruling, write a ruling. So as I was talking, you know when you are talking as a lawyer and the judge is writing what you are saying, you feel you are making sense, that you are sounding intelligible. Unknown to me, it was my committal to prison that the chief judge was writing. It had absolutely nothing to do with the observation. So as I was talking, the chief judge just simply ordered me to step out of the bar and then ordered that I should be taken to prison.
When you got into prison?
So from there, I was taken to the prison, initially to the Uyo Correctional Service. They were supposed to keep me there because of this COVID regulation at the time. They took me to Ikotekbene. As I was getting to Ikotekbene, of course, they have, you know, what they call admission. Fisayo will be familiar with that. Admission is when you come in, you introduce yourself, they take your details, they take your image, your particulars, and so on, and then decide the cell you will be, and all those sort of things. Now, the truth of the matter, let's not deceive ourselves, is that as of today, there is clearly nothing correctional about the Nigerian Correctional Service. The system is completely flawed. And I have had cause to say that the Correctional Service in Nigeria requires fundamental reforms. Nearly everything Fisayo has said is the truth. I can confirm to you that, yes, there are what they call special cells. When I was in Ikotekbene prison, they put me in the so-called special cell, right? And 50,000 was collected for that. I mean, I'm confirming to you, so I'm not telling you. These are things I have said publicly. I'm not telling you what I was told. I'm telling you my own experience. 50,000 for 2 weeks. And they insisted that, oh, you cannot stay in the general cell. You know, you are VIP. You know, you are this, you are that. So, and guess what? The so-called VIP cell, there's nothing VIP about it. The condition there is not even nothing. But at least in comparison to the other places, maybe some relative, you know, better than the cell that I would have ordinarily stayed. But that VIP cell is inside the premises of the prison. It's not outside. So the truth is that in the prison, you have to buy space as an inmate. I paid for lights. You know, they don't even, in fact, for about almost the entire period, I was in Uyo Correctional, you know, Custodial Center. Because I spent 2 weeks in Ikotekbene, 2 weeks in Uyo. We did not have electricity supply. Inmates were the ones who paid for their own kerosene. And they used lantern. I paid 1,000 for kerosene. And guess what? It is the warders that are selling the kerosene. Everything in the prison is paid for. The food that inmates are served, you will not serve your dog. The gari is not only bad, it is despicable. If you see the food, so I didn't eat the so-called food there. I did not drink their water for the 1 month. I was on self-feeding. The system allows you to apply for self-feeding. I mean, if I had eaten what they served, I'm not sure I would have come out alive. Self-feeding is you write a letter to the prison to say, I want to take responsibility for my own feeding. Okay. So you now nominate either your relative, your spouse, or whoever to be the one to be bringing food for you.
You pay for that privilege?
No, for the self-feeding, you don't have to pay. You just simply need to apply and then nominate someone to bring food for you. Because the food they are selling, giving to inmates, is ridiculous. So inmates now have to devise internal way of, you know, concocting whatever they are served to make it, you know, possible to swallow, not to eat. Inmates don't eat, they swallow. I'm trying to make that distinction. Because if you say they are eating, it's not food that they are served. And this is something I have said repeatedly. In fact, the correctional service in Nigeria is so bad. The day I arrived in Ikotekbene on the 27th of July, an inmate had died the previous day. The day I was leaving, an inmate had died. The day I arrived with you, an inmate had died. Like it was as if the death in the correctional service is so rampant. The healthcare is nothing to write home about. This is not limited to the correctional service that I was, the custodial center. It's a national thing. What Fisayo is telling you is not a lie. When you see how inmates are sleeping, the point he did not make is that you have to pay for the space. And this space you are paying for is to allow you to sleep properly. So there are inmates that, I'm telling you, there are inmates that have to stand. That I'm telling you that they may not even have the space, like to even squeeze themselves.
Oh my goodness.
It is so congested. It is so diabolical. The hygiene is zero. The water is nothing to write home about. The feeding. So I used to tell these NGOs that go to prison to donate food, you are wasting your time. If you want to go to these custodial centers to donate food items, donate on used clothes or whatever, be sure that you are there when those things are distributed to inmates.
Okay, because they never get to the purpose.
The correctional officers, many of them are also prisoners. The only distinction is the uniform. They are grossly underpaid. I don't know if you are aware. They are grossly underpaid. Their welfare is nothing to write home about. So they struggle with the food. In fact, when I was for the 1 month I was there, I had food in excess. I mean, people were bringing all sorts of things for me. It is not only prisoners who were struggling for the food, even the correctional officers. Yes, so the system has completely collapsed. And guess what? Part of the reason that awaiting trial inmates stay for so long to go to court is that before you are even sometimes taken to court, you have to facilitate it. Yeah. If your relative don't come to give money, right, to in-charge court, they call it in-charge court, the officer in charge of taking people to court, you may not have a court appearance. Because there are people, let me also shock you. Do you know that there are inmates in Nigerian prisons today that nobody outside knows that they are there? I met a gentleman from Adamawa who was in Uyo prison. Nobody knew. Nobody outside the four walls of the prison knew that he was there. And it's not isolated. There are people in prison that cannot be accounted for. There are people in prison that their court records cannot be traced. There are people in prison that have not been awaiting trial, that have not been taken to court for up to 5 years. Oh my God. It is that terrible. The system has completely collapsed. So one of the things I did while I was living is that, by the grace of God, I was able to facilitate the release of about 17 inmates when I was leaving. Because some of them were released on bail, they cannot perfect their bail. So all I simply had to do was that to make money available and get them out on release. And those that needed fine and all that. So what I'm telling you is that let the minister stop this hypocritical investigation. What the National Assembly is doing, as far as I'm concerned, is a product of parliamentary redundancy. Having not been able to do the real work that Nigerians have voted them to do, they are now distracting themselves with the Bobrisky matter. The member who moved that motion, Patrick Umo, was my senior in the university. He's a lawyer. I know he's a thorough person. But what they should investigate is not even just about Bobrisky. Bobrisky is, for me, the whole investigation to a large extent is a distraction. The real issue is the rot in the system, is the way inmates are treated as animals. In fact, the day I arrived with you, 2 weeks after I got a grade, 2 minutes with you, this assistant controller of corrections told me, I had to challenge. I said, Madam, do you treat people as animals here? I said, yes, we treat you as animals. You don't have any rights here.
She actually verbally told you that?
She said it to me. Of course, at that time, maybe she had not known who she was speaking to. But she said it, this woman said it to me, here we treat you as animals. Inmates don't have any rights in the prisons. They have no rights. And it pains me because you will literally die. In fact, there was a gentleman who, in Ikotegbene, had an accident. His legs was seriously fractured. The medical facility there could not cater for him. I was the one who undertook responsibility for his treatment. And I did the same thing for several inmates. So I'm just telling you, it's not to sing my praise, I'm telling you how bad the situation is. There are inmates that, they have a call center in the prisons. There are inmates who cannot even afford to call their relative. So the system has completely collapsed. Anybody that tells you that we have this correctional service that is correcting inmates is wasting his time. That is why when people go there, in many occasions they come back, they are more emboldened. They go back to crime. There is nothing reformative about that system. The entire system is based on a mindset of slavery. It is based on a mindset of subversion. And guess what? Many of the people that are actually in prison are innocent. Okay, they've not committed any offense.
I'm going to ask Soyombo a similar question, but let me get back to Mr. Francis. Are you there? You've heard these very heavy allegations being made by our two guests in the House. So before you even decide to answer and respond to what they just said, I want to ask you, during his appearance before the House of Representatives, Michael Ananugwa, the Deputy Controller of Corrections, responsible for the Medium Security Custodial Center at Kirikiri, referred to his suspension as a social media suspension. How transparent is the prison system when it comes to addressing and reporting issues like corruption, abuse, just like my two guests have said, or unequal treatment? Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you very much.
So first we'll talk about...
Yes, I heard you.
Go ahead.
Yes. Thank you very much. The issue of the officer in charge of the facility in Lagos that made that comment during the hearing, I want to excuse myself from making comments about that because it's already, there are very substantial, hearings by, different bodies. The Honorable Minister has instituted investigation, and the House is hearing the issue. So I am not, of course, you know that I'm a retired officer, so I may not be able to speak to what to ascertain the veracity of his claim. Now, to the gory picture that is being painted by the gentleman in the studio, that's their own account. It's unfortunate that, just like I said earlier, that we have platforms for reporting characters that are out of place. They are boldly displayed on the walls and gates of every custodial facilities around the country. We expected that if they cannot access these avenues, their relations, their friends who visit them should have used any of the platforms to report some of these allegations.
They've gone on.
Secondly,
sorry, sir.
I did mention.
Can I just interrupt you there? Let me just interrupt you briefly. The two people in the House today have been very vociferous about their complaints and their discoveries and their findings. So it's not a question of, they should report to certain quarters and it will be handled from there. They are telling you now, you listen to their conversation, they are telling you the extreme measures they have gone to. Even one of them has said that there are tapes as evidence. Do you understand? So my point is, when it gets to this level of their complaints and the fact that they've created so much awareness about it, what are the proactive steps that prison officials have taken to put an end to this? Let's leave all the big English and felicitations and what have you.
It's okay.
These two have made it clear that they've gone to extreme measures to draw attention to these severe, dastardly situations that they have described. So what I want to hear from you, sir, is that these are the steps that have been taken, how you've wronged those rights, right those wrongs, and why we intend to move forward to ensure that things like this don't happen again. Sorry, go ahead, sir.
Yes, recall that when we started this conversation, I did mention that several measures have been taken in the past, and they are still being taken to address some of these infractions. And that several officers have been either dismissed or reduced in rank. And anytime some of these actions are taken, we normally publish. I'm surprised that some of these publications that we usually use different media to make known to the public that the authority does not condone any act of indiscipline, that people don't really know much about them. We have internal mechanism for dealing with such infractions. And I also mentioned that Nigeria, I have never come on air to say that Nigerian Correctional Service is run by angels. We have bad eggs everywhere, just like we have in every other organization. I think what is important is establishing whether the institution has credible mechanism for addressing some of these infractions. And before we go further, please permit me to say something, and it's very important. Yes, I have acknowledged that, yes, there are bad eggs, but the people are bound to behave whatever way they choose to, but we have means of reining them in. Let me quickly say, with due respect to modesty, that Nigerian Correctional Service may not be as bad as is being painted, and I have my reasons.
But they're giggling
several
here.
years ago. Let us look at the issue of health. Let us look at the issue of health.
My two guests,
and support.
My two guests are giggling at that comment.
I said, let us look at the issue of health.
Okay.
Let us look at the issue of healthcare services. You recall that some couple of years back, cerebrospinal meningitis ravaged the society. Most northern states, about 19 northern states, were ravaged by CSM. Yet, Nigeria Correctional Service never lost a prisoner to that scourge. In 2014, when Ebola invaded most countries in Africa, Nigeria Correctional Service never lost a single soul. Recently, in 2020, when COVID-19 came and brought all nations on their knees, even some of those highly advanced countries that claim to know tomorrow, they all capitulated. but Nigeria Correctional Service remained afloat. We never lost a single soul.
Can I ask you a question talking about health and what have you?
Let us look at even at that 2000 and I think 2021, a senior advocate of Nigeria accused the Correctional Service of hiding his client who was suffering from COVID-19. When we went into it, we discovered that the child of this alleged patient and his lawyer, they went to the correctional facility. They saw him there. I mean, they saw the inmate there, hale and healthy. Nothing wrong with the inmate. And it was all because we were able to shut down the system and then do the needful to ensure that the disease did not escalate. We also look at the issue of education. We are saying that the whole system has come down to ground zero. Look at the issue of educational intervention and psychosocial support we provide for the inmates. How many of the inmates are doing their running their educational program, courtesy the support of the National Open University of Nigeria? How many are doing their masters? How many are doing their PhD program? What about vocational training programs? How many do we have in the street? I'm not saying we are out of the woods, that there are no problems. That is not what I mean. But what I'm trying to say is, for you to completely run down the system, that there is nothing good in it, is to ground zero, I beg to say, I don't entirely agree.
Okay, let me ask you another question.
Yes, there are problems everywhere. There's no doubt about it.
Let me ask you, Mr. Francis, another question, because, I mean, let's get back to the issue of what even ignited this conversation in the first place, which is the issue of Bobrisky. Now, Bobrisky is a male person, is a man, but with female anatomy. So in such cases, where would he be? Where was he put? Was he in a male prison or female prison? And if you have cases where you have to take people out of this prison and put them in a particular segment, what's the criteria for that? We don't have any private prison outside the walls of the custodial facility where we keep anybody anywhere. So if anybody has that encounter, or you have evidence to prove that there is an apartment that exists outside the four walls of custodial facilities where inmates are kept, the person is free to prove it. I know the Bobrisky issue, I want to be careful with the way I talk about that because investigations are going on. But I do know that Bobrisky is a man and he was kept in a male facility. What we do, what I can speak to now, is that we profile inmates as they are coming into the facility. We want to know your past record of criminality. We want to know your age, the frequency of your involvement in crime and criminality and all of that. We also want to know where you can better be kept for the purpose of facilitating your reformation and rehabilitation program. These are the criteria we used. And we also look at your social status. You don't expect us, because you remember that the job of the Nigerian Correctional Service is to keep inmates alive in safe and humane custody. Whether you say because of the congestion, because most of these allegations, they border on fallouts of overcrowded prisons, which of course you and I know that is not the fault of the Correctional Service. When we keep, for instance, you use somebody like the journalist or an ex-governor or anybody of that status in society, you find yourself in the prison. We will not keep you in a general cell because we know the general cell is populated by armed robbers, hardened criminals, and you may not stay alive till the following day. So we have a way of taking these people to different cells to keep in their own interest. In addition to that, we also maintain what we call back cell or single cell, solitary cell, whichever name you want to call it. And we have different reasons for maintaining such facility. Number one, if an inmate is in the custody and he has refused to show any sense of remorse, he is still violent, he is still breaking rules and regulations, he is taken to that isolation cell. Okay. Isolation cell is called punishment cell. Punishment cell is not as if you'll be taken there to be punished, to be flogged or beaten or anything. Isolating an inmate from his mates
is one of the biggest pain you can inflict on an inmate.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
So
Francis.
nobody wants to be isolated.
Let me get back.
We also take you there if we suspect that you are having a communicable disease. We take you there to monitor how you respond to treatment before taking you to join your colleagues in the general cell. Okay. If we also look at your vulnerability, like Bobrisky, for instance, you alluded to the fact that yes, he's a man, but his body features, shows. I mean, something that presents something that looks like
transgender.
If you take him to general cell, whatever that is called. If you take him to a general cell, of course you know what will happen to him. So based on that, they are isolated. If you now begin to ask, if you are for an inmate to be isolated, will they have to pay money to be isolated? I've told you the criteria we follow for isolating.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Francis.
So I don't have.
I have to go back. I have to come back to the studio. So Soyombo, let's get back to you. You mentioned the phrase "prison with your body or with your money," and you also said that you encountered people who had been in prison for a long time, wrongfully incarcerated, but unfortunately they couldn't. They have not been able to get themselves out of that situation. So, can you tell us stories? I mean, examples of such people and your experience?
Yeah, I think it was Inibehe who said people had been there for long and they didn't know. But I came in contact with people who had no business being in prison. One, two brothers, teenagers, who fought on the streets, and the police were invited, picked them up, and there was nobody to bribe the police for them to be out on bail. That's how they got to prison.
So simply put, if they had been bribed, if they had bribed police, they wouldn't have been in jail in the first place.
I wouldn't have been in prison if I paid the police bribes. They were not interested in keeping me. Every morning they would ask, it's only that your small girl that is your sister that we see. Don't you have a mature person that can come and take your bill? That's all. It was because it was Friday. And then they knew that if someone was in cell Monday to Friday, there was no bribe, then he wasn't going to pay. So they couldn't bribe the police. That's how what are teenagers doing? They should be in juvenile centers if they have to be in Ikoyi prison. I met teenagers.
Okay, but this issue that Bobrisky, which has opened the can of worms, saying that he didn't stay in prison, how regular, how often is this? I want to ask you and also you.
How often? It happens all the time. It's just because
is it so you are saying that people can be sentenced and they won't even touch?
I'm even telling you that people can be sentenced and they would not get to prison. That's what I'm telling you. Because if I told you in court, they came and said, pay this amount, all the difficult parts of your bill, we'll waive them for you, we'll perfect for you. You will sleep in your house tonight. That's why when people say, oh, justice has been served, remanded in prison, sometimes I just laugh. Because if that guy wanted to sleep in his house that night, it was possible. This is a daily occurrence. While the prison warders were asking me about how much I had to pay, they were gisting. The moment, my sister paid them the first amount of money and they took me out of the holding cell, and then we spoke about the kind of house I would live in prison, and they saw that I was ready to play ball. They were free. The report is there. One of them was saying, oh, the day Naira Marley was... transfers were just going left, right, and center.
The day Naira Marley was arrested?
Yes, the day Naira Marley was brought to court and was taken to prison. He said, I made cool cash that day. Transfers were just going left, right, and center. So it is a daily occurrence. Justice in Nigeria is for the poor. It's not for the rich. The exceptions are one, when the victim of the crime, if a crime has been committed, when the victim is rich or powerful or connected, or the media has become invested in that case. There are some cases that go viral, and then the attention of the media is on it, and then they know that, yes.
But how can they be, let me ask you, Inibehe, how can you ensure that that these prisoners are actually where they're supposed to be? Should there be independent bodies that look into this to monitor prison officials and ensure equal treatment for all inmates, but primarily to ensure that these people are actually there physically serving this sentence?
One thing I can tell you for free is that if there is such isolation or preferential treatment given to an inmate to serve his term outside where the inmate is supposed to serve, it is not a decision that a single correctional officer or just somebody?
No, but I'm saying a body created just to supervise this.
I'm going there. I'm just placing it to you that it is not a decision. It is not an action that somebody of low.
It's a collective effort.
It has to be somebody high up there. Because if there is one institution that has a good record-keeping system, or a system that looks like a good record system, it's actually the correctional service. In fairness to them, Fisayo knows every single day they have what they call a roll call. They will go across the cells and collate the number of inmates that have passed the night there, send it to their headquarters. Now, those numbers can be manipulated, no doubt. But there is a process. That is why the whole Bobrisky thing, I said it is not difficult. If you want to know whether Bobrisky spent 6 months inside the 4 walls of the correctional service, if the minister is serious and you want to do that investigation, it's simple. Simply go to the Kirikiri, go to that place, talk to the inmates in the absence of the correctional officers. You will know the truth. If you want to do an investigation and you want to take testimony of just the officers, you are wasting your time. Go and talk to the inmates in the absence of the correctional officers, because as long as the warders are there, they cannot talk. No prisoner, no inmates.
And without prior notice, if I may add, without prior notice.
If you give them notice you are coming, they will arrange, they will change it. In fact, they can swap the cells. Everything will be rearranged. So I know that the rot is deep. And when the man in the Abuja studio was saying they have health, it's just dancing around the issue. I was sick. I was sick when I was in Ikotekbene. I was down with malaria. I had to order my own medication outside. I had to also buy for other inmates. In Uyo, I bought inhaler for not less than 2 inmates who were asthmatic. They could have died. So anybody that tells you that we have this wonderful healthcare plan, he's just deceiving himself. And I have to share this personal experience so that people will know how bad the system is. The other point I wanted to make is that I am talking to you today as a victim of the Nigerian criminal justice system. I would have just been, making theories, speaking what is written in the book, pretending to understand the system as a lawyer. If I had not personally undergone that horrendous experience, if I had not been a victim of the Nigerian state and be wrongly detained for 1 month, I would not have known how flawed, I would not have known how fundamentally defective the criminal justice system is. If you are going to solve this problem, which I believe the government is not ready for, they are just deceiving themselves. You have to start with the police. The reason why these places are congested is not really so much the fault of the correctional service. They may have fault in terms of documentation taking inmates to court. It is the police. Every single day, go to Oba Magistrate Court in Lagos. See the number of people that are being rounded up, arraigned in court and remanded. Look at the number of people that are being sent to the custodial centers on a daily basis, on civil matters, on flimsy reasons, because they don't have money to submit to the extortion demand of the police. The police is the major culprit of why our correctional service is congested. And I'm telling you this based on what I have seen. If you are going to solve this problem, you need to look at the courts, you need to look at the police. The police is the major culprit, and then you need to look at the correctional service. Today, the President Tinubu administration is not ready for that conversation. The minister who is acting like he's surprised, taking video and pictures with VDM, those things are just for social media entertainment. If the minister is serious, he knows how deep the rot is. I don't think he has the political will to address it. I don't think the government is willing or ready to reform the criminal justice system, because the rot has gone so deep, so deep. Some of the things I'm telling you here is just the tip of the iceberg. It is that bad. You need to see the food these inmates are served. You weep for humanity. You weep for humanity what they are served in the name of food.
Okay, let me ask Soyombo, because we're going to be rounding up a bit soon. Based on your undercover observations, what do you think are the chances of prisoners successfully reintegrating into society after their incarceration?
So it's up to the prisoners, the support system that they have. The reintegration is entirely up to them. But there is.
But did they have this support system?
If it varies for most of the people who are in prison because they shouldn't be there, who don't have money to pay, fines to sort out their bills. So it's difficult. Then they come in. As a matter of fact, a number of them want to go back to prison.
Really? Why?
Yes. People who have no place to sleep, people who were arrested because they are destitute, because, there was some guy I met in prison, a shop was robbed maybe 2-3 days before. One night he was sleeping there and then police came and they picked him. The guy had no place to lay his head, and then in prison, he now had a place to sleep. Okay, So what is happening in prisons, it doesn't encourage people to go in, come back, and become better humans. Look, as a prisoner, you are looking at the warder, you're like, but I'm better than this guy. What brought me? Maybe I stole a bag of rice somewhere. Let's even say, of course, there are people in prison because they committed crime. But you look at the things that the warders are doing. You realize that actually, this guy just has a uniform. I'm actually better than this guy. So why can't I be back? We have to be serious about solving the problems. It is clear that reforming the Nigerian prisons has to be external. It has to be externally motivated. You see the prison officials, they're not interested. It's rot that goes from bottom up. They're not interested. When I did my undercover, there was nobody that was pointing. Maybe they transferred 1 or 2 people. The main guys were not published. The assistant chief who picked up, who brutalized me, stripped me naked.
They stripped you naked?
Oh, yes.
Why?
Handcuffed me behind. My cover was blown at some point. That's why I told them.
Oh, your cover was blown whilst you were
That's why they seized the video. So bring out the videos.
Oh.
So when it comes online to say we are lying, it's
but at
infuriating.
what point was your cover blown?
When I was I wasn't supposed to go in there
since.
I wasn't supposed to go in with the device.
Yes.
Because I knew already that when you bribe prison officials, they'll bring in whatever you want for you. But in court, I didn't expect they would come to me to say, you can pay also so and so amount of money and you get put into special places, 50,000, 100,000, 150,000. So I wanted to document that, and I tried to bring the device in.
Okay.
So there is nothing, and of course the final, there is nothing in the hands of an inmate that did not enter through a prison warder. Okay. Every single thing an inmate has that they shouldn't be in possession of, the warder sold them. Everything.
There are drugs too?
The person that came to give me food paid 1,000 naira to enter.
No, but what about drugs?
Anything they are bringing for you, anything. Food, even if you are not sick, you have to eat. You will pay money.
Do you have like cabals as well, like capos and what have you in the prison system?
I didn't go round enough to see because, at some point when I had to admit I was a journalist, they pinned me to the welcome cell, told me I mustn't go out of my own volition, made sure that I did not see the food. So I believe everything Inibehe Effiong said. They invested effort in making sure that I did not come in contact with their food.
So how are you?
They were deliberate. I would go to the records to collect money, and then I would go and buy food. Sold by prison warders, of course. It was right. Every service going on in prison, it's the warders who do it. But if the services are legitimate, that's not a problem. It's when they are shady. One point I like to make is the reform of the Nigerian prisons will not happen from the Nigerian prison service. I will never publicly call them Nigerian Correctional Center. It's nothing correcting going on in that place. It has to be external. The minister said there is a panel to investigate. What are you investigating? Whether Bobrisky spent time in prison or not? The panel has existed for more than one week now. What are you investigating? I found out that he spent 3 weeks there before they moved him out. How long did it take me, one individual, without state powers to find out? The president has to be serious. Okay. Has to understand that this is a big problem that has to be fixed. Yes. Internally, these guys are not ready.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Fisayo Soyombo. Thank you so much, Inibehe Effiong. Thank you so much. Mr. Francis, are you still there with us? Thank you so much, Mr. Francis, for being with us. I wish we had more time, but as you can see, we have run out of time, but at least...
Yes, I wanted to just say a word.
Please, just one second, because we need to go, please. Just one minute.
Thank you very much. Yes, like I said, we are not at ground zero. In 2018, we'll recall, Nigerian Correctional Service won an international award given by UNESCO. And it's on the basis of the combination of education and vocational training that we give to inmates.
Okay, thank you so much.
National Center for Disease Control is also there to confirm these records I gave on preserving the lives of inmates.
Thank you so much, Mr. Francis. We have to really go now. Support. Thank you so much for putting in your own word as well. Anyway, as we come to the end of today's discussion, the bottom line is that the allegations surrounding Bobrisky's sentence is a wake-up call. As citizens, we must demand accountability and advocate for reforms that ensure fairness and human dignity for all, whether they're behind bars or walking free. Prison should be a place of rehabilitation, not a place where the privileged evade responsibility while the powerless suffer. Justice must be blind, not selective. And always remember, like I keep saying, life is a learning curve. So that's all we have time for today. You've been watching Perspectives here on Arise News with me, Ruth Osime. See you next week.